mode.
Great. So good morning. If anyone is here in the US attending the webinar, I see number of attendees have already joined. If there are questions, feel free to post the questions on the webinar site. And let's get started. So today's webinar from Stoodnt, we are focusing on statement of purpose and letter of recommendation. A quick background about myself, everyone. I am Ajay Singh. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Stoodnt. The journey around graduate studies for me was about 26 years back. After graduating from undergrad in India, I came to do my master's here. Went to one of the top schools, which was University of Texas at Austin in computer engineering. And then after that, working a few years, and I went into MBA school and have a very good understanding of this process in terms of what works, what doesn't work. Especially if you're thinking of applying to the US universities, the good news for all of you is the amazing number of universities here offering graduate studies. So enough options for you. In terms of financial aid, you may not get financial aid upfront, but that should not change your plans because there are enough ways to fund it once you come join the university. And the other pieces, which today why we focus on statement of purpose and letter of recommendation instead of college shortlist or anything else, because college, as you think about it, your GPA is there, your work experience is there, your projects are there, and your GRE score is there. So the only other two things that may influence and do have influence in your admission decision is statement of purpose and letter of recommendation. And as I have worked with a number of students out there, what I see is that these two areas definitely need improvement when I read the number of statement of purpose and letter of recommendation, which seem very generic to me. So I think that's why we want to focus on this piece. The other challenge always is college shortlist, right? That takes a lot of time, a lot of thinking. But it's tough to cover because that gets very personalized based on everyone's score where they stand. So today what we are going to cover quickly, and I think we'll spend about 25 minutes going over the slides. There are a lot of slides, so I'm going to move fast, and then we'll open up for questions over the last 15-20 minutes. So 3 areas we'll talk about: strategies, tips, and examples. So moving to the next slide, statement of purpose, what is important, right? So instead of me telling you what I thought was best was, I think, one of the top graduate schools in the country, UC Berkeley. If you think about it, what they say is about statement of purpose that's important is a statement of purpose should convince readers, right? Especially who are the readers. These are the admission selection committee that's reviewing your file and application, that you have solid achievements. And think of statement of purpose, I think it's just here, it's not about just what you have done, right? Statement of purpose in US, and that too also in top colleges in UK and Canada. And that's a difference that we see if you're an international student coming from a country like India, that we focus a lot on what, right? But statement of purpose needs to be a lot about, yeah, what you're interested in, but who you are behind it, because that's where they're trying to understand, and that's a big predictor in terms of the success. So I think as you do a statement of purpose, introduce yourself, your interest and motivations, summarize your UG work and other projects, careers, right? But don't go into details. I see a lot of technical stuff. Discuss relevance, right? Why you have done it. Again, it's about the why and whose, then what. About what a future aspirations and interests are. Very important for them to understand, because every college and every prof wants an alumni or a student who's going to do excellent post-graduation and make their name, brand more successful. And then why the college, right? It's very important for you to at least touch base, and that's where the tailoring needs to be done a little bit, because a lot of students have statement of purpose, which is very generic. They send it to every college, doesn't help them. So moving on to essential tips, right? And then we'll go in more detail, but key essential tips as you're thinking of a statement of purpose. What can they read between the lines? Because, right, that's very important, because they have your coursework, they have your projects through your CV, they know what you have done, but see what you can tell them between the lines, like self-motivation, right? How can be a competent graduate student, right? Those things make a big difference than just saying what you have done, because you may have done something and you end up and you're not motivated, not going to help the college or the prof you're working under. Emphasize everything from a positive perspective, right? Demonstrate everything by example, and that's very important. When I see statement of purpose, a lot of stuff is written about that, or even same in letter of recommendation, but there are no examples to back it up, and it seems so generic to me, and that does not help an admission team member or a prof really get excited about. If there's something important that you want to highlight, this is your opportunity, right? And it can be positive or negative, right? But this is your opportunity to speak to the team, admissions team or a prof, and highlight either if it's something that's positive and it's not coming out in your grades and GPAs and scores, or if something that's negative. The second last piece is everything is linked, right? And with the focus and continuity and the structure that's built on a statement of purpose. I read a lot of statement of purpose, I read a lot of essays, and people are trying to pack too much stuff and there's no continuity or structure around it. And be concise, right? That's very important for you. You can write a long 2-page statement of purpose unless they've given you a word limit and may make no sense. Or you can have a very 500-word SOP, which is so powerful that excites and gets a prof interested and say, this is the student I want in, right? And for graduate studies, admission committees play a very important role, but individual professors at times may also play a very important role, right? So understand it, unlike MBA or undergraduate admissions. So moving to tip number 1, right? Follow directions and consider your audience. It's again very important. As you start thinking of writing your SOP, think about the audience. And why I want to say audience is very clear, right? This is the profs or admission team. But remember, they are going to go see a lot of statement of purposes over the short period of admissions time, right? So because thousands and thousands of students are applying, they're going to read hundreds of them, each one of them. So the key thing is, if it's very generic, they'll spend 2 minutes on it and they're done, right? Doesn't excite them. A file, if you have excellent GPA and scores, that helps you in graduate studies. But if they're comparing your file with someone else who has the same GPA and scores, and your statement of purpose is not standing out, the other person is standing out, I can bet you majority of time, the chances that the other person is going to get admitted, not you, right? Remember, it's a highly competitive process at top schools, good schools. So key is think through what they're reading number of statement of purpose and how do you make it interesting, genuine, and engaging, right? Where they go read it and then they say, aha, this is a student worth looking at and we should think about admitting them to a program. Here's an example, and this is an example coming from a very different point of view. This is a person interested in writing history. And if you look at the writer, right, how they start, if you look at, that's got nothing to, you'll read this and see, is it a statement of purpose? If you think about the first line, right, it's about an author, they're trying to refer back to an author of a book, and then they slowly tell the story, right? Then you look at the next paragraph. So if I'm reading it, has got nothing to say, hey, I am so-and-so, and this is what it is. It's a very different start. Gets me interested, saying, wow, interesting. What are they trying to tell here? And then you start reading, and if there's a continuity and an interesting and engaging start and a different way of writing it, really makes a difference, right? Because you're always curious to say, let me go to the next paragraph, see what the student is trying to tell me and what's the story here, right? And again, has to tie in what you're interested in doing, but that interesting, engaging thing makes a big difference. Now moving to tip number 2, right? Choose your angle and find deeper meaning. And we'll go through this example, right? Why I say that this is all about the who part of it, right? What you're trying to tell the story is not only what you have done, but why you have done and who you are at a student or individual level, right? So build your story around it. You're trying to tell them a story, and the US, Canada, here in society, it's also stories as important as what you've achieved. Right? You may have achieved a lot, you may be an amazing student, but if you can't tell an effective story, you may not get the results that someone else who can tell an effective story tell. So if you're trying to write, right? If a generic statement saying, as long as I remember, I always wanted to be an engineer, right? A lot of times I see that, right? Growing up, I always wanted to be an engineer. No, I think that doesn't help because they see very generic statements there and they have read this statement hundreds and hundreds and thousands of times, right? Maybe a story is something else, right? Story is a experience in last few years which really impacted you, why you should come and do a graduate studies. Your story is maybe very different. So, or it may be something else, right? Where you are passionate about doing something and that's what drives you today, that, hey, finally you have to go do a graduate study or MS program. So that's the key piece, right? Find your angle, find your uniqueness, find your story and tell that, but again, in a very focused and effective manner, right? The communication, it's not where you have to write tons of pages. Primarily, I think you have to write a very short, concise story around number of points, find it, write it, and make it happen, right? Now, this is another one which we have tried, which is, again, there's someone, my love of biology started in high school, right? We had, and we have taken a few names out here. We had a young and enthusiastic teacher, right? So she is trying to tell a story how she fell in love with biology at that stage and why this student is interested in pursuing further, right? So there is a story about how this happened, what got him or her interested, how did they come about, why, and then there are more paragraphs why you have to say why graduate study is important to you, what you want to do and all that stuff. But think about it, has to be a story around it, right? What really, because then you start understanding a person behind the statement of purpose, behind that grades, behind that scores, and that's a critical piece of the overall process. This again, right, example, many people have asked me why I did not proceed directly to graduate studies after graduating. Again, this person, a student, is trying to tell something more to it, right, about who that person is, what the story behind that person, why they're interested today in the graduate studies when they were not a few years back, or what really got them excited and interested about this piece. So as you read and look at these examples, again, think about why, how to write it, why it's important to write in a manner which really makes it effective SOP and really helps you get a difference. You can write any SOP, and if it's a generic one, won't help it. Can it hurt it? Absolutely, it can hurt your chances if there are many other students who have done a better job at writing their SOP and letter of recommendations that come out of the graduate studies. Third one, right, it's very critical, is demonstrate interest in school and program, right? This is a very important piece here, and what it does require you to research. If you have already engaged with the professors or at admissions team, if you have friends who have gone there and told you stories about it, show them you have tried to do extra step about knowing the programs, about what they do, the profs who are interested in working under, because that tells the admissions team and a professor, hey, you are taking that extra step to really learn about the program, the profs, the research that's happening, what's going on in the school, and why that school, right? Think about why it's important is, hey, it's like a party out there, right? If I'm going to invite certain people to come to a party, I better invite people who are interested in coming there as well as will engage in terms of the party itself. I don't want people who are just there because they found their way in and came in and then pretty much have nothing much to offer, right? They're not excited of being there because that dampens the whole spirit. So do your homework on every institution, show demonstrated interest, very critical. And this is where your SOP may require the changing by college to college, right? It's extra work, but it will help you differentiate among your peers as you apply to the schools. Look, example here, right? In selecting the university of this, I've been influenced by the way a research program, right? Again, fully try to show you're familiar with the course you're applying for. You've done your homework. You've taken the extra effort to go around the way. It does take time and effort, but will absolutely help you get better results than what you may be getting with a very generic SOP. The last piece which I see, right? Write the draft, rewrite, proofread, and get feedback from other people. Right? It's very important because admission officers don't want to see a statement of purpose which does not have the right English, the right structure, because you're going to go for a graduate studies. They expect you to go write research reports. They expect you to write papers. And I don't think they would be interested, although many of these graduate studies may be technical in nature. So that's very important, that you can have the aptitude around the technical piece, but it's also important that you can write effectively and impress them. So don't put a SOP which has not gone through a spelling check, the structure is not there, the writing is not there. So take time to do it. Don't underestimate the importance of statement of purpose. It's critical piece. Is it a replacement for your low grades and GRE scores? Not really, but also it's a critical piece. If you've got everything else which is good and you're applying to good colleges, I think this does make a big difference in your results. Common mistakes made, right? And I've seen this with a lot more international students than the US students. The SOP reads like, hey, it's a laundry list of the achievements and accomplishments. I want to say it's all about what I've done. I already know that, right? I know the courses you have taken in your CV. I may have seen the internship you have done, but too much focus on what doesn't help me understand you better, why you are interested in coming here, why you want to do a graduate program studies, why you're interested in this area, who you are. So I think you have to have what you have done, but have to tie in with the other pieces. Too technical in nature, right? It's some of the folks applying for engineering or biotechnology and other science STEM fields think that if I write too much technical, this prof is going to get so interested and excited. No, they already have known your technical aptitude by your scores and your grades, right? So how you've done well, I already have an idea. Now I want to know more about other stuff. Very generic in nature, right? Not engaging or interesting to read. And repeat of information found in other parts of application, right? Doesn't help me, because when I'm reading SOP, I would like to know more about other stuff that I can't see in the application, right? Now moving on to the next, hopefully the statement of purpose again gave you a good idea in terms of what a good SOP means, which, as I said, has to be a very effective, engaging, efficient statement of purpose, again with a focus on purpose, right? What you're interested, why, and who you are, right? What has influenced you to be who you are. So make it more of a story about some of the things. Now going to the same themes continues with the letter of recommendation. Who should be a referee, right? Again, a lot of times I see reference, people say, should I take reference from so-and-so, or taking reference from anyone doesn't help. Is it going to hurt you? Not really. I haven't seen any reference today or letter of recommendation that may have gone where they say negative thing about student, right? Everyone writes the same buzzwords about a letter of recommendation, very generic in nature. So it won't hurt, but it won't help either, right? So letter of recommendation, again, like statement of purpose, you want to use to make your application more powerful in the admissions field. So get letter of recommendation from someone who knows you. So when they write it, they can give examples and tell a university why XYZ student may be a good choice for them to admit or as a good fit to the program. Like everyone says it's good, he or she is going to be an asset to it, right? But there's no example to say why this person is an asset than saying he has got integrity, she has got this. So make it more meaningful, the letter of recommendation, right? Do not make it very generic. So if you're looking for reference, assistant professor who may have taught you, known you, have taught you 3 courses, may be far better than dean or principal for the generic LOR, right? A lot of times I hear, and less so for graduate studies, I see a lot more for undergraduate or MBA schools will say, can I get letter of recommendation from this minister, right? Or this doesn't help at all. In fact, it may hurt where it seems very generic. The second piece is professors who may have relationship, right? Here, the brand matters a lot. The relationships, just like India, matter a lot. So if you know a professor you've worked with, taken a course, who likes you, and may have studied in the US university, or may have students who are professors here or in the staff, take from them, because that letter of recommendation has a lot of value than anyone else. And you can even segment it, because you can take it from them for a few universities, maybe another prof for other universities, right? If you're working, right, immediate reporting manager or supervisor over VP, right? Someone who has worked and seen you has got a lot more value than someone who may be high up and may not have. If you've worked with them and they're impressed, absolutely go take it from them. But don't think the title and how high they are in the command chain helps, because it's a lot about who knows you better and who can write that lot more personalized letter of recommendation about you than a generic one. The other question, I think it's easy at times to get letter of recommendation from university profs. I think it's a pretty standard process from, we see a lot of students, graduate students who are applying after working for a number of years. And we see a lot more now, the trend line, people who have been in the technology industry, working for companies like TCS, Wipro, deciding to, after 2-3 years, to go for graduate studies, either to build expertise, right? So key is always, how do I get a letter of recommendation from an employer, right? Always tricky, because there are two sides to it. One is, hey, as much as shows the interest that you want to go build your expertise further, you want to go acquire more skills, knowledge, technical aptitude, but also it is, hey, this so-and-so is willing to leave the organization, which at times the leaders may like or not like, right? But it's always good to then approach folks you can trust, right? Because trust who already have a positive influence on you, where you have a positive relationship, and tell them. I think this process should start months before, where you can tell about what your aspirations and interest is, right? In higher education, how you want to build it, how you're trying to do it. Ask them at times, right? They're willing to your referee and recommender. But again, trust is very important there. Give them enough time to work on the recommendation, because they'll have 50 other things to focus on than just your letter of recommendation. Provide them some ideas on what you want them to cover, right? Very critical. And this is based again on work they may have done with you. They may have observed you, they may have seen you, right? And then tell them these are some of the areas you'd like them to emphasize, some of the examples out there. And then also make sure you're following up with gentle reminders before application, because time flies very fast. If you're applying for next year, pretty much the admissions process has started, and it's in over next 2 to 3 months, they will be over at majority of good universities. In many, they're already by mid-December, the applications have to be in. So very critical, you don't have much time, so you have to get going very soon. Scholarship essays, right? So a little bit different than statement of purpose, right? In scholarships now, they're trying to look at an individual who has other skill set than just being admitted, right? Now you're trying to if I admit you for a scholarship, it's more competitive than the admissions team. So they are trying to looking for more about you as an individual, right? This leadership skills, commitment to innovation and creativity, the community engagement. So they want to see a very individual, very well-balanced leaders, the future ambassadors who can be excellent alumni of the stuff. So as you think about the scholarship essay, it has to go a little bit more than just the technical pieces. And if you have shown leadership through your technical work, that's fine too, right? But again, highlight other points that you want to put in scholarship essays than just pure the technical aspects of it. So here are some common scholarship essay prompts, and you'll see very different. But again, through all these essay prompts, they're trying to understand about you, right? Who you are. Again, remember that these essay prompts can be a trick questions. So these are, think about from an interview perspective, but what they're trying to understand all about is who you are. And that's a great opportunity for you to emphasize some of the pieces that we discussed, like leadership, the community's work, what you have done and what you haven't done. Right? So before we open up for Q&A, I think just quickly want to touch, I think, how do we at Stoodnt work with the students out there. So a student, I think it's if you think about it, we have a panel of experienced admission counselors. They are spread around for MS, MBA, undergraduate. They are also, we have at this point about 50 to 60 counselors spread in the US and India who work with us in helping with students, where they can do the profile evaluation, university shortlisting, the statement of purpose, review and edit, end-to-end guidance. Right? They're based on what you're looking for. So that's the important piece, how we believe we can help and guide a student. And that we believe it's the right value, because a lot of students may, it's not that you can't do these things on your own. I think we believe that providing that service helps you to sharpen your application, differentiate your application, and be successful. End of the day, I had this 25 years back, whether when I applied for my MS, whether I applied for my MBA, I had guidance in my application process, which end of the day helped me get a better result. And we believe that there's a value to it. There's exclusive offer for all attendees who, for today's thing. We can give 10% discount on 4 to 5 university application package. We can give 15% discount. If you're interested, you can send us an email at customer.support, or you can contact tanmay.ray@student.com. So with that, Tanmay, do you want to add anything else?
No, I guess we covered pretty much everything. So that was.
So with that, let's open up for questions. We have about 15-20 minutes for any questions and answers for this webinar.